Remember, Andy, it's the T's, tits and teeth, tits and teeth. Um, hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy.
Of course.
If we ever get out of here, thought of giving it all away to a registered charity. All I need is a pint a day if I ever get out of here. If we ever get out of here, more on that later. But first, we have a tune to listen to, which my glamorous assistant, Andy, has plucked from the wings.
Doing my best glamorous assistant, my Vanna White to your Pat Sajak.
Remember, Andy, it's the T's, tits and teeth, tits and teeth. There
you go. Oh my!
What do you got?
Yeah, well, after bringing great shame,
sorry.
after bringing great shame on my family with that gesture right there, I will now offer up my tune for you. So today, I want you to check out a band called Future Islands. You're probably familiar with them to some degree, no?
I've heard the name, but I can't think where, how, why.
Okay, cool. That's interesting to me. Only because I know that they've had to some degree a little success over there because I do believe they've appeared on Jules Holland, and have toured over there. So hey,
maybe that.
Yeah, perhaps that's it. But yeah, I'm gonna have you check out a track by them called "A Dream of You and Me."
Very nice too.
Yes, I thought so too. So yeah, go off, give that a listen, and come back and let me know what you make of these guys.
Will do.
Loneliness and me, I asked myself for peace and found it at my feet, staring at the sea. All the glitter is gold. Don't believe what you've been told.
Okay, this is interesting. So you've got like a synthy poppy kind of vibe going on. I like the bass is kind of really holding it all together as going through, and then you're getting accents really, and more than one. So you're getting this synthy part that feels like kind of familiar. Du-dun, 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 du-dun. And then the guitars, and that all sort of fits together quite nicely. It's very breezy and light. And then the guy starts singing, and at first I was wondering if English was his first language because his pronunciation was interesting. I wasn't quite sure what words he was saying, but I think it's just he's got a bit of character to his voice actually. And then by the chorusy bit, it settled down a bit from this weird emphasis I like the way he said people love. That was cool. But yeah, the first bit we start is slightly odd, but also slightly endearing as well. I quite liked it. There you go. So, let's see how it continues.
A dream of you and me. I let it go for me.
Yeah, it's that bit there. Dun, 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 dun. That's familiar. It sounds like something else, I'm sure of it. But
It washed up at my feet, staring at the sea. All the glitter is gold.
Ace.
Don't believe what you've been told. People lie, people love, people go. But beauty lies in every soul. If you wait for the moment, if you wait for the moment, if you wait.
Maybe it's because of the thumbnail, but I am getting sort of pictures in my head of with the synths and the guitar. It's almost like kites in the wind. They're just doing their little bits and pieces. It's very pleasant. Don't mean this to sound disparaging, but it is kind of lightweight. It's sort of poppy, so it's not supposed to be anything heavy, I think. And I'm really liking his. He does just the odd word. He pronounces, he overemphasizes it or whatever. But it's a bit of character to his voice actually, and I quite like it. Yeah.
If you wait for the moment, if you wait for the moment, how long, how long, how long? I ask myself for peace. 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 And found a piece of me staring at the sea.
It's not just subliminal because he said staring at the sea at the end, so I'm getting all these like birds and sky and sea. Didn't really catch the lyrics. I kind of heard the sound of them, but the words themselves didn't register. Because I was lacking the shapes of the words, how he was forming them. That's my excuse anyway. Yeah, there was bits in this that were really quite. I said this recently, some stuff, quite 80s there. That bit at the end, with the bass, it was quite an 80s feel to it, I think. It's sort of really breezy, light, up tempo. I'll have to find out a bit more about this and what the hell the song's all about. Let's go back and speak to Andy.
Okay, welcome back. And what's your summation of the experience listening to "A Dream of You and Me" by Future Islands? Did you enjoy this track or what?
Well, first thing that I thought straight away, it's totally an aside, but "A Dream of You and Me" instantly linked to my mind to, I don't know why, but dream a little dream of me. You're gonna be thinking that some songs, it doesn't matter how odd they are, just fucking awesome. And that's one of them. And it just popped into my head for a second before this
Yeah.
started, and I was like, because I've heard other people update that song as well. I just think it's a brilliant song. But anyway, so
It is a brilliant song.
A Dream of You of Me is an evocative title. So I was thinking, oh, I wonder what's going to be starting here. So song starts with this bright 3-note triptych from the guitar and sustained groundwork from the synth. We've talked about this so many times, but it's sort of putting down the paving slabs, as it were, for the guitarist to strut across the top, and it is like 3 notes sort of thing. And there's a combination which will continue throughout the song. Behind that, there's this percussion that resembles cicadas. Is it? And it's the old rubbing of the legs, and which plops a pebble into the suggestion pool of this song's mental picture for later rumination. It just planted a seed, as it were, in my head. So the beat kicks in with this up-tempo sort of new ordery type bass line that sounds great. Do 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 do, really nice and quite chirpy. And we get these chiming synth lines, which kind of were familiar. And I struggled to place them during the action. I think about 2 or 3 times I said, oh, that's familiar. I can't quite, boring everyone who's watching it to death. But about 20 seconds after I finished the reaction, I was like, oh, 2 words popped into my head. And I'm not even sure if this is correct. So viewers, please let me know. But China Crisis, a sort of 80s poppy band from these shores, and the song Wishful Thinking. Now, I'm not a fan of China Crisis, and I don't even really know the song, but it popped into my head for a reason. So as far as I could think, it's not a blaring similarity. It's more of a distant foghorn of resemblance across the misty bay of memory, suggesting a correlation between the two. That's as much as I can say. Viewers, please tell me how wrong I am. But there's definitely a big blue vein of 80s pop flavoring running through this song.
Yeah.
And I was noticing, rhythm section aside, which is pretty tight and driving, the guitar and the synth parts, and there's kind of, I would say there's more than one synth part here. There's a sort of medium range one and a higher range one. They're all accents, and they don't drive the melody at all. It's really the bass that does most of the melodic work, which is, again, quite interesting. So your man, the singer, launches into the first verse. And I have to say, for about the first 10, 15, 20 seconds, I did wonder, is English his second language? Because there's some really interesting pronunciations in those, particularly in those opening lines. He does it again later on, but he sort of, by the time I get to a word called the chorusy part, he kind of calmed down a bit. But I shortly realized it's just his character, his style, and maybe a touch of enthusiasm as well. And I found myself actually quite warming to his delivery. I particularly enjoyed, it's a really small thing, but there's a very small slide on the word love, and it goes, people lie, people love, people go. And it's just a really funny little touch there that just made me chuckle. I don't know, I'm easily pleased, I guess. So I believe that part is the chorus. I mean, it's not one of these big flashy choruses, build up, but here's the chorus, everybody sing along. It's just a slight change, and it's really subtle and quite tasteful. And the bass kind of shuffles up the tree a little bit to give us all high melody to these lines, and then the guitar joins in as well, mimicking it, and it sounds really good. So then we get into the second verse, and we're back to the New Order bass line and China Crisis, apparently, chimes, and it's all very bright and breezy. Now, I'm not really taking in the words. I'm registering there are sounds, but I'm not remembering the words, put it that way. But along with the thumbnail and the odd phrase, like particularly one bit at the end, he goes, washed up on my feet, staring at the sea. I'm getting subliminal pictures coming into my head. So after the second chorus, we go to this delightful little passage where he keeps repeating, if you wait. And there's a really lovely guitar bit, which is a different, like, 3-note riff. And it starts to fit and intertwine with the bass part beautifully. And then my mental image is complete. And it is of kites in the wind, sort of swirling and dancing on the end of the string, and they're kind of you're going with each other. And we're on top of a seaside cliff, and there's lots of wind and clouds and surf below. And the other synth, the higher synth dashes are sort of birds swooping in and out. And that's what I'm picturing. We get some more vocals coming in asking how long. And it sounds like the singer's asking himself for peas, but it might be peace. But then it's a piece of him that he's found or something, and we finish again staring at the sea. That's a bit like perhaps Robert Smith on the beach. So A Dream of You and Me, I didn't get much of it, but I was wondering if it's aspirational, as in a dream that the two of them are together, or if it's recollective of a time, a dream of a time when they were together. So I'm not sure which, but either way fits. And without being disparaging, because this word can be used as a bit of an insult, it was lightweight in terms of it was a slice of pop. It's not supposed to be heavy, and heavy like synth-based songs are really too much. But there was a very lightness, a touch, and poppiness to it, but that 80s flavor. So I enjoyed it, and I found his idiosyncratic stylings of the singer really more and more endearing as it went along, and really enjoyed his delivery and performance. So yeah, this was a nice poppy. There's nothing not to like about it,
Yeah. It's funny that you gravitated toward because you only listen to this as an audio medium, but you gravitated towards his, for lack of a better word, performance as the singer of this band, and their popularity was really galvanized around this performance that they had, and I'll touch on it a little bit. But they performed on Letterman.
Right.
And Letterman is as close to Jules Holland as we have over here, or had over here, because Letterman loved
alternative
indie
bands and all that. Yeah.
He wasn't giving me your top 40 bands every
REM.
Yeah.
Famously.
So he would introduce us to a lot of these mainstream to a lot of these bands that were regional or only followed by a cult group, and his live performance and all of his motions, and because he's a synth pop vocalist, you get all that crazy performative stuff with that, and he leaned into it, and people just loved it, memed the shit out of him. Everybody, and that's what really drove them to popularity. So it's funny that you just listening to him picked up on a lot of those things that translated over the Letterman performance and helped them become so popular. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, they are an American band based in Baltimore, Maryland. That's right. Future Islands. Dear.
But despite that, they found success. Well done there.
Easy. But yeah, they are comprised of Garrett Welmers on keyboards and programming, William Cashin on bass, acoustic, and electric guitars, Samuel T. Herring on lyrics and vocals, and Michael Lowry on percussion. The band formed in 2006, but Future Islands came to prominence 8 years later in 2014 with their fourth album, Singles. Its lead single, Seasons, Waiting for You, is what they performed, and that's what I just alluded to with that anecdote about his performance. They have released a total of 7 studio albums, including their most recent, which was released this year, entitled People Who Aren't There Anymore. Future Islands' music style has been tagged as synth pop, but the band has routinely rejected that classification, considering themselves post-wave. And God knows I know how much you appreciate a good discerning between subgenres. So let me go out there and throw out another label. So they combined romanticism of new wave with the power and drive of post-punk. Or at least that's their take on their sound. Their band's members came from very different musical backgrounds and sensibilities. Herring grew up performing hip-hop, and Garrett Welmers was into punk rock and heavy metal, and William Cashin was into indie rock, grunge, krautrock, and new wave. So a lot of the band's synth pop influences come from him. Cashin was also a big fan of The Cure and the Smashing Pumpkins, and was influenced by bassist Peter Hook from Joy Division and New Order. So there's that connection, which you picked up on quite quickly, as well as Kim Deal from the Pixies and the Breeders. So another great bass player that we've talked about at length on this channel. While Welmers and Herring found common ground through Danzig and Cool Keith, it was through Kraftwerk's Trans Europe Express, which was sampled by Africa Bombata, that Cashin and Herring found some common ground. The band has stated our early influences were Kraftwerk and Joy Division and New Order, so it kind of came from those sounds. We were just using what we had at our disposal to create, and those were old Casios and Yamaha keyboards and a borrowed bass guitar and borrowed amps. We scraped together what we could to make music with. We scraped what we could to make music with weird shakers and sound makers and stuff like that, and just kind of led us down a road. These kinds of things defined us early on, and we kept that sound, kept painting with that palette. Herring named Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, OMD, as one of the biggest influences on Future Islands. He said of their 1983 album, Dazzle Ships, we all just fell in love with it. We couldn't stop listening to it, and it really just became a huge inspiration and influence in creating our second album, In Evening Air. Cashin affirmed that the entire band has drawn inspiration from OMD's immense heart and soul. This particular track also featured on the aforementioned Breakthrough album Singles, and was actually the final track on that album. Having toured for 5 consecutive years in 2013, Future Islands was finally able to afford to take a break from the road and write their fourth album. We sank everything we had into singles. It's definitely our most polished record. We were able to take time off the road because of the money that we had saved from years of touring. So we were able to write while not under the pressure of being constantly on the road. The band made their network television debut on March 3rd, 2014 on The Late Show with David Letterman, as I mentioned earlier, performing Seasons, which is off that album. Their performance on the show, particularly Herring's onstage antics, became an internet success and garnered millions of views on YouTube. Seasons was eventually named the best song of 2014 by Pitchfork Media, the Paz and Jop Critics Poll, and Consequence of Sound. So Pitchfork wasn't alone in this designation. The success of the album led to the singles tour to extend all the way into November of 2015. Singles received acclaim from contemporary music critics at Metacritic, which assigns normalized ratings of 100. We've talked about them at length here. The album received an average score of 82 based on 32 reviews, which indicates universal acclaim. AllMusic rated the album a perfect 5 out of 5 stars, while the Daily Telegraph, The Guardian, Mojo, and Q rated it 4 out of 5, and Spin, Enemy, and your beloved Pitchfork, let's get it one more time, they scored it an 8 out of 10. In her review of the album for the Washington Post, Catherine Lewis would write, "There's something tongue-in-cheek about an album called Singles from Baltimore's Future Islands. It sounds like a best-of album, but the synth-pop trio has no commercial hits on its 3 previous albums. But much of Singles is worthy of the title, and that album closer, A Dream of You and Me, is poised to be the group's next big hit, with an enticing delivery and catchy hooks." Now, let's jump into the... go ahead.
Just a second there. That shows the difference, doesn't it, between someone who works, within the music industry as a reviewer, how their minds work and how mine's, because you said the title of the album Singles, and I thought of people who are unattached, and she thought immediately of record sales.
Yeah, exactly.
Two different meanings.
What's funny is that they kind of both work, because there is a lot of songs and music about this where you're right where you said it could either be about lamenting the loss of something or pining for the start of something, which is, you get those vibes of it, which is either way, you're single when you're feeling either of those two things. So there are songs on there that connote this singledom and this pining for love, and yet there are these songs that could easily be singles, as was mentioned. So it works both ways. It cuts in both directions. So the lyrics: I wrestled by the sea, a loneliness in me. I asked myself for peace, and I found it at my feet, staring at the sea. All that glitters is gold. Don't believe what you've been told. People lie, people love, people go, but beauty lies in every soul. I wrestled by the sea, a dream of you and me. I let it go from me. It washed up at my feet, staring at the sea. All that glitters is gold, but All that glitters is gold. Don't believe what you've been told. People lie, people love, people go, but beauty lies in every soul. If you wait for the morning, 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 how long, how long, how long, how long? I ask myself for peace, 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 I asked myself for peace, and I found a piece of me staring at the sea. And Justin Owlett of Alt Citizen wrote of this track in his review of the album, "A Dream of You and Me is a dour yet incredibly upbeat and hopeful. Is incredibly dour but upbeat and hopeful for the band. It almost feels like a nod to longtime fans that the band didn't forget what made them so intoxicating in the first place. In said song, Herring repeats the lyrics, 'I ask myself for peace.' This seems like a simple mantra, but it shows how they've grown from down in the dumps, morose band into something more self-assured and confident." So yeah, this is one of my brother's favorite bands. So I really wanted to bring it to the channel. He actually turned me on to them when he returned from the Peace Corps when he was in Madagascar for 2.5 years. And I'm pretty sure that song Seasons that I mentioned earlier is one of the songs that he and his wife danced to at their wedding, and definitely helped them get through their time when they're in Africa. And that's where they met each other. So it's all, yeah, a little tied into my family there. And I wanted to give them a nod too, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have found this band or perhaps had as much affinity for them as I do, outside of also being from my hometown here in Bmore. But thank you so much for giving them a listen, John. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, guys, out there in the listening audience, let us know what you think of Future Islands. If you're fans of this band, if there's other tracks we should check out from them. I listed myriad influences on the band. John actually picked up on some of them as well in just one listen. What did you guys think? Were there artists or different subgenres and sounds that you think they tapped into on this track, or some of their other stuff if you've listened to it? Feel free to drop any comments, suggestions, what have you, down in the comments field below. Just remember to be kind to us and each other. All that out of the way. Also, please think about liking, sharing, and possibly, definitely, subscribing to the channel. We are trying to grow and can't do that without you, and we always, always appreciate it. That out of the way, hopefully John and I will see all you and a growing number more in the next installment and future installments of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.